What's up, Chiefs Kingdom? Noah Gray here, tight end for the Kansas City Chiefs. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe to Josh's channel and check out showmefootball.com for more.
What is up, Chiefs Kingdom? Welcome back to another episode of the Kingdom Crew podcast. That's right, I said it, the Kingdom Crew podcast. We are back, and not only are we here with myself and Michael Darcy, but folks, you may recognize him. He's been on this channel before. Lucas Murphy, or better known as the Beat of KC. He is back and on the channel. So this is going to be going up under the Kingdom Crew playlist, but we're going to talk about a multitude of topics and really just talk football with Lucas, guys, and he's going to carry a lot of the conversation for us today. But yeah, we are excited to have him back and to be booting up the Kingdom Crew podcast for another episode. But Lucas, how are you doing today, man?
Doing fantastic. And man, that intro, that is wild, man. You never told me you knew Noah Gray. That's sick. But I'm doing good, guys. I really appreciate you having me back. And obviously love talking football for sure. So thank you.
Yeah, no worries. And we love having you on. Michael Darcy here as well, as always. So it's good to have the trio back. But guys, we're going to talk all things Kansas City Chiefs in this episode. So obviously, the Kansas Lot Chiefs are slated to host the Buffalo Bills in the AFC Championship round. Michael and I talked a lot about this last night, I should say. So Lucas, I want to get your take first, but what was just your reaction to the Buffalo Bills coming out of that AFC divisional round game? Is that who you were pulling for? Is that who you preferred to face? Is it the result you expected? Just kind of what are your thoughts, feelings on that?
You know, initially I really wanted to take on the Baltimore Ravens. I think just kind of the first game, Isaiah Likely kind of like comments where he's like, if, you know, basically we see him again, like they're not going to be able to take it. But I immediately started kind of taking the approach of Travis Kelce in like whoever. I mean, we were going to face either one, and we know at this point in the season, whoever we face are going to be really good football teams. So, my honest answer was it didn't matter who we faced. I don't feel now when it comes to matchups, I think that's where you really start to dissect and who matches up better. But I mean, we were going to play either one at home. And I just, bring it on. I think from a narrative, from a media perspective, I think it's going to be a lot easier to ride with the Bills and the Chiefs. We know that this is going to be a showdown that's going to continue to happen year after year. We're going to see Josh Allen versus Mahomes. And so I think from that standpoint, I think it's going to be pretty good. And then I think our fan bases really kind of rival each other now. I think that, you know, it seemed like there for a long time it was Cincinnati. But, I mean, if we're just being honest, you got to be there consistently if you want to be a rivaled fan base. And they're not. So, I think the Bills and I want it, man. I want it. I think, like last year, I mean, we literally took on the Ravens and then turn around and took on the Bills. And like, I mean, you're facing the good teams. And I'm ready for
Miami was no slouch in the wild card either.
No.
I mean, that was a gauntlet of the playoff schedule.
Yeah, and one of the coldest games, people getting freaking frostbite and all kinds of stuff. But
taking their clothes off and just doing ridiculous stuff.
Yeah. But speaking of last night, man, Ryan Fitzmagic last night taking his shirt off, getting the crowd hyped up, man. That dude is a special guy. That's one thing I actually like about Buffalo is Ryan Fitzpatrick, man.
Did you see the Jason Kelce on Ozempic?
I was going to say that, yeah. I forget who tweeted that. I think it might have been like Le'Veon Bell or Antonio Brown. They were like, it's Jason Kelce on Ozempic at the Bills game. That was funny. But, reeling it back in. So Michael and I, we talked about this matchup last night, and also we just got done shooting a video for Michael's channel where we talked about some of the concerns we have about this Kansas City Chiefs team going up against the Buffalo Bills. But I wanted to take it a slightly different direction here on the Kingdom Crew podcast. So this will be a question out to both of you. But is there any matchups in this game? We'll take a positive angle. Are there any matchups in this game that you look on paper, Kansas City Chiefs versus Buffalo Bills, where you say Chiefs have an edge here, and if this part of the team shows up, they will have a very good shot to win this thing?
I'm going to say running the football. I think last night was a perfect example. I think if we can find a way to, I said this earlier in the previous video, I think if the Kansas City Chiefs can find a way to get a lead, however we get that lead, and you utilize the two-headed monster in the backfield of Kareem Hunt and Isaiah Pacheco, and you're able to chunk yards where it's like 4 or 5 yards at a time. You're just rotating those two, even bringing in, Samaje Perine back in there. I mean, shoot, even bring out Carson Steele for all I care.
Mhm.
But, if you're constantly pounding the rock and you're chunking yards and you're doing that, to me, that's the advantage. I mean, we saw last night where Derrick Henry and Justice Hill were able to literally just run down the field at one point. And I think that will be a disadvantage for the Buffalo Bills. I think if you can get their defense, on their toes, they get tired. I think that's true. To me, that's the advantage. I would say Patrick Mahomes is an advantage, but I wanted to kind of be a little different. And I think to me, it's going to come down on the run game.
Michael?
That's a really good point. That's a really good point. I feel like the Chiefs' defense is better than Buffalo's defense. They're going to have to run the football. If they don't run the football, it's going to be a situation where those wide receivers and Travis Kelce better go out there and have a legacy game, because you need to establish the run in the cold in this AFC Championship game if you want to have any chance to win. And maybe this is just how my brain thinks, but when you said talk about some of the key matchups, my mind instantly went to what concerns me necessarily about this matchup.
Mhm.
Something that I'm going to be watching very closely. Buffalo's offensive line is very good. They went up against that Broncos pass rush, and outside of a couple sacks, I think it was just one sack, they didn't really get to Josh Allen. And I know that the Chiefs defensive line sacked CJ Stroud 8 times. I think that if you could have lined Lucas and me up on that defensive line, we could have gotten through there too. So that's going to be a situation where the Chiefs might not be able to force enough pressure on Josh Allen. And also, when you're playing Josh Allen, it completely changes. You got to remain, disciplined in your gap. Make sure that he doesn't get outside the pocket and run for just giant gains. It's going to be a Leo Chenal spy game type of situation. To talk about, I guess, something that I feel optimistic in, I do think our wide receivers against that secondary is a big advantage. Taylor Rapp left that game with an injury. I don't know if he is going to play on Sunday. Maybe he does, maybe he doesn't. But all year long, that Bills defense has been a weakness of that team. Damar Hamlin, you can pick on him.
Yeah, I think both of you had something interesting to say. I like what Lucas had to say about running the ball, because if you look at the majority of these playoff games, not just the Chiefs, but everyone, the more successful running team is coming out of all these games. I mean, look at what the Eagles did last night to the Los Angeles Rams. Saquon just took over, and that's why they're moving on to the NFC Championship. That's how the Ravens got past the Steelers in round 1. They could not stop Derrick Henry. Both teams really ran the ball well last night for the Bills and the Ravens. And then, Michael, you mentioned the Bills' offensive line. I'd say that concerns me as well, because, yes, they got 8 sacks against the Texans. We know that they have a weak offensive line, especially on the interior. And George Karlaftis in that game, he had 3 sacks, and I thought he did well, but his PFF grade was very low for this game, and I think the reason for that was because I believe 2 of his sacks were essentially attempted blocking with a tight end by the Texans. And so you can't block George Karlaftis with a tight end. That was just irresponsible by their offense. But, the Chiefs' edges have really struggled at generating pressure this season, including George Karlaftis. And that's why, I've been critical of him on the show. Of course, everyone's talking about him getting a big money extension this offseason, especially after that game. But it was a very Frank Clark-esque 3 sacks, if you ask me.
Had to bring him up for old time's sake.
Yes, had to. But the edges, and don't get me started on CEH, who's not even on the team anymore. But the edges, man, you got to generate pressure. And these Bills tackles are very good. But then again, I look back at that playoff game from last year against the Buffalo Bills, and we didn't really get pressure on Josh Allen in that game. And everyone's like, what is going on? Why are they not generating pressure? And in fact, I believe they ran a lot of 3-man fronts. And it was because Steve Spagnuolo's game plan was play gap discipline. We're not really trying to rush the quarterback in this game. We want to play contain and make sure Josh Allen stays in the pocket. And they were completely satisfied letting him throw downfield, but they were not going to get beat on the ground as well.
To me, I think that's going to be one of the biggest differences is like Stroud can obviously get out and be mobile. But when he is in the process of going down, he's going to go down. I think that's the big difference with the size of Josh Allen. And we've seen that, I don't know how many years, but like he gets out into space and has not only improved in that, that's part of his game that's improved, but the fact that he just doesn't go down easily is going to be a difficult thing, because that's where I feel sometimes the Chiefs struggle as a defensive unit is we'll get guys in a position where we're going to create a sack and we just don't finish that sack. And I think that's where Josh Allen will excel is like we may be in the process of taking him to the ground and he'll shed that and then scramble for 5 or 6 yards. So I think as long as they are finding a way to contain him, I'm interested too, like what type of coverage our defense runs, because like it's almost like, are they going to kind of zone up a little bit more than usual? Are they going to run more man because of, the wide receivers, and then maybe like try to force them to run the football, which is where the Chiefs for the majority of the season have excelled is, opposing run offenses. But I think that's where I'm going to be kind of curious to see is how our defense approaches their offense. Because like you just don't want Josh Allen going completely ballistic for tons of yards and just running touchdowns and stuff like that. Cause I think that's where they would easily get the upper hand.
You just don't want to see that 4th and 2 happen again. That 4th and 2 where Josh Allen somehow is able to just bully his way into the end zone. That's the type of stuff that loses you a football game. And I don't want to see that happen down the stretch, but it is a concern because Josh Allen is that good and he's playing that good. I feel like you have to, as a defense, say, we do not want Josh Allen's legs beating us. We think that we can take that aspect away from him. And if he beats us with his arm, we died on the sword. Like that's just got to be the mentality, because you got to trust the guys on the back end of your defense with Trent McDuffie and Jalen Watson and Shamari Connor, who had an interception in that first game. So it's just like you have to trust the guys that you have. And you also have to trust that Steve Spagnuolo is going to put guys in the right position and make the adjustments that he didn't make in this first game. Because, why was there not a spy on Josh Allen on 4th and 2? There are certain questions that I feel like we need answers to. But the one thing that I am optimistic about, the Chiefs always raise their level of play to the competition that they're going to face off against. And so, yes, Buffalo's great. They might be the best team in the AFC. They're not the Kansas City Chiefs. They don't know how to win games like the Chiefs do. And in a 1-game elimination, when you've got Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, and Chris Jones, it is going to be very hard to bet against those guys.
Yeah, another thing that, I heard this on RJR Football last night as well. I'm going to take this kind of segment from them. The Bills, see, and this is going to be something to watch defensively. What are you going to do to get the Bills in 4th and long situations? Because if it's 4th and 2, 4th and 3 even, I think you're going to see them go for it a lot. And if you can't stop it defensively, I expect you to match that aggression offensively. Is that something that the Chiefs are going to do? We know Andy, for as great of an offensive mind as he is, kind of shies away from some of those situations where most people would go for it. And he'll probably receive some pushback from Patrick Mahomes. So I guess what's more important to you guys, the Chiefs matching the Bills' aggression on offense or simply trying to stop their aggression on offense?
Man, I think if you stop their aggression on offense, then it will be less pressure for your offense to have to come up. Like, I mean, we've seen it time and time again. Like our red zone success is like what very questionable suspect at times. Yeah. So to then create that type of pressure consistently to have to go for it and come up with these crazy plays, I would much rather lock them down when we need to than have to put that pressure on our offense.
I've got a fantastic take that I just thought about. The Chiefs' offense needs to be aggressive. I think that that's just a given. But I'll say that they should, if they have to, go forward on 4th and 1, run it with Kareem Hunt, go forward on 4th and 3. You've got the best quarterback on the planet. You should be able to go get 3 yards. But the point that I'm going to try to make is that I think the Chiefs offense should be more aggressive on 1st and 2nd down to not put yourself in a 3rd and 10 situation or a 4th and 5. Be more aggressive on 1st and 2nd down. Take a shot. Use the running game more often to where it's not unpredictable, or I guess to it's not predictable. I think this offense needs to be aggressive, but the time to be aggressive isn't, 4th down. It's 1st and 2nd down, and if you need to, on 4th down.
That's one thing I was super excited about in the Houston game was when we went deep to Hollywood Brown. Now, granted, he didn't catch that ball, but man, it showed that they were going after it on that. So, Josh, I'll let you go. But man, I do agree with you for sure.
Well, the next thing I was going to ask about is some of these trends that we're seeing for the Chiefs on offense. So the snap counts came out from the Texans divisional round game, and DeAndre Hopkins did not play very much. In fact, I have the snap counts in front of me. I lost them after a second, but he did not play very much at all. 16 snaps for DeAndre Hopkins on offense. And then for Hollywood Brown, 34 snaps. That's still less than 70%. You saw a lot of a lot of tight end personnel, multiple tight ends out there, a lot of Travis Kelce, Kareem Hunt even played less than 50% of the snaps. Juju Smith-Schuster only had 21 snaps. So my question is what is the plan offensively for this game? Because I think if it's the same plan that they had for this Texans game, you're not going to win. And I'm not saying that to be pessimistic. I just think most Chiefs fans would agree, reasonable ones, that you have to play better offensively against the Bills if you want to win. That was not a great offensive game against the Texans, but they won because the Texans had several special teams blunders and they were sacked 8 times. That's why they lost that game. The Chiefs didn't need their best offensive game, but I don't think you can play a C-, C+ game against the Bills and come out with a victory. But the problem is we haven't really seen anything more than that from this offense all season long. I mean, some of their better offensive performances were against the Texans and the Steelers later in the season, but those were not without mistakes. And this Bills team, their cornerbacks aren't very good at protecting the boundary. Their safety room is very questionable. But again, we said this on Michael's channel, this Chiefs team really has not punished bad defenses all year. And I want to feel like the door is still open there because of these snap counts that we're seeing, that the Chiefs just have something that nobody's seeing yet. And these guys are going to explode onto the scene in the AFC Championship. But you almost kind of wish that you saw it sooner just so you knew that you were capable of it. And I don't know what to think, man. I don't know what to make of this offense heading into this game. What do you guys think?
I would have to say, I think you're going to see Denny's menu expand a little bit. I think we're going to see a bigger play sheet, to be honest with you.
You don't mean that old Denny's that burnt down right by the stadium, right?
Yeah.
It always lives in our hearts.
Yeah.
But I truly believe that I think that I want to believe that they've been holding back and they don't want to put things on film. I just truly believe that you're in the point of the season where it all matters. You either win or you go home. And so, yeah, I want to believe that maybe those guys were just being put on a conservative play count, and then they're just going to come unglued this game. Because, again, it comes back to, I just truly don't understand how you can account for those types of players. You have probably the greatest tight end in history, and we saw him go off. You have one of the greatest receivers of this generation in DeAndre Hopkins. And granted, he is a little older, but the guy still is as shifty as can be, can get open. Hollywood Brown is fully healthy. When it comes to leg wise, conditioning wise, probably all there. I mean, you're talking about talent, and I mean, you got the best quarterback. I mean, just let it go. I mean,
I'll tack on this question as well, Lucas. Do you think that because of the injuries that the Chiefs experienced all throughout the regular season, that it made them extra cautious, like in a game against the Texans, in which they knew they could beat the Texans without exerting too much energy.
I could see that. I could. I think too. Like I want to go back to like I don't want to discredit the Texans. I truly believe that their defense is very skilled in their secondary. I think Lassiter is a phenomenal player. They got some guys and they're able to get to the quarterback. So I think defensively they probably did some things that made the Chiefs adjust a little bit. Not saying that the snap counts weren't predetermined or anything, but that's kind of my thoughts on that. Is I just feel like maybe in those situations it was to where now I just don't see a reason why you just don't let it all fly. Like they literally should be like, okay, these plays are usually off limits. No, like it's available this game. It doesn't matter. And one on a positive thing, and I don't want to jinx it, but we have not seen that weird Travis Kelce like shovel pass up the middle in a game or so. So I'm hoping that doesn't come out again. But yeah, like those, I just think like you need to just unhinge everything and like let it go. Like if Travis Kelce's throwing a football this game, like then let it happen. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I need to see the ring around the rosy. I need to see the jet chip wasp, the corn dog. I need to see that offensive creativity that we know that Andy Reid has. And it's like, you might not get another game. This could be the Super Bowl. Like, this is how good both of these teams are. So you need to go out there like this is your last game. Cut everybody loose. And I don't know if they just had the approach against the Texans, like, we're going to go out there and see which guy's eating, and then we're just going to feed that guy. Because if you just look at Mahomes' game, he only completed 16 passes,
and over half of them were Kelce.
Yeah. So it's like they didn't really do that much offensively. It was just kind of like, hey, Travis, go find a soft spot and just go to town. Like that is not going to be feasible against the Bills. I expect them to game plan for him. Now, Kelce can still have an impact, but I don't think you're going to get $117 again. They're going to have to, use someone else. And something. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, I kind of wonder if, so Kelce kind of put the league on notice again in that game, right? Like, oh, Kelce still has it. Like, you see that he can still have a game where he has 100 yards and a touchdown, and he gets his. And so now maybe the Bills are going to be more laser focused on Travis Kelce, and then all of a sudden, oh, there goes Xavier Worthy flying down the sideline. No one accounted for him. Or maybe you see Hollywood Brown take an underneath one and take it to the house, or DeAndre Hopkins is able to make a contested catch down the sideline. That's my other thought, and that's kind of what I hope is the case as well. As like you said, Michael, once they got that connection going to Travis Kelce, it's like, okay, we can win with this.
One thing I kind of wondered too is I wonder if in their mind they're like, hey, we don't know how many more games Travis Kelce is going to have, and he needs 100 yards to break Jerry Rice. Like it just seemed like at times it was forced a little bit. And like you said, it was almost like, hey, go find a soft spot and let's keep feeding Travis.
Yeah.
Because now that he's got that I don't want to think that they're that petty to be like, hey, we know we're just going to beat the Texans in a way. So like, let's do it a certain way. You know what I mean? But I mean,
are they that good? Like that's what I like. Are they that good?
I mean, that's what's crazy is like how this whole year has gone. Like if we could have easily been undefeated. I mean, we easily could have been undefeated. And then on the vice versa, we could have easily been borderline even making the playoffs. And so, yeah, I mean, you got to kind of have some arrogance, though. You're at a professional level. Like, you're going for a three-peat. Like, everybody, like we see on social media, is just talking trash. Like, at some point, you got to have that swagger. I mean, Tom Brady was that way. Like, the whole Patriots, dynasty was that way. Like you had to have some arrogance to you. And so maybe they have that. I mean, I wouldn't be upset if they did either, but I don't know if we'll ever know.
I feel like it's not even necessarily arrogance. It's just kind of like they know that if they go out and play their best football, that they're going to win. And it's just because they're a better football team than you. And I don't think that's necessarily arrogance, but they do need to have that chip on their shoulder, that mentality. One thing that Tom Brady did that I absolutely love is he would make up stuff that didn't actually happen to get him motivated. Michael Jordan did it. That is what the great players do. And if you're Patrick Mahomes, you don't got to make anything up. You just
Yep.
look online. Like, there is so much hate for Patrick Mahomes and this team that I think they understand the mission. And my biggest concern is this Bill team, is this going to be their year? Because it's only a matter of time before they break through. But then I go back and think, that doesn't have to be this year. That doesn't have to be, with this Chiefs team that through that season were just better than Buffalo. And they were a couple plays away from that, Bills game going in their favor. So it's like, if they play a different game, they can absolutely beat the Buffalo Bills. Does this game scare me very much so? Yes, because I think that the Bills are that good.
Andy Reid did speak this morning, and this is from Rob Collins on Twitter, works for Fox 4 KC. And quoting Andy Reid saying, "I presume the Bills will be favored, but that's all right. We do our thing." And I found that really interesting because rarely do you ever hear Andy Reid buy into any sort of social media talk about being favored or whatever. And also the Kansas City Chiefs are favored in this game, but I like the underdog mentality. And I like hearing that from Andy Reid because, man, like, if you've listened to Andy Reid at all for any length of time, that when he says something, even if it's just a little bit, that there is something to it.
He's a little sassy, man. He's a little sassy. He doesn't get talked about enough, but listen, Andy Reid can throw a shot here and there.
Well, it's just like, a few weeks ago, I talked about this. He was like, yeah, Jalen Watson's a long shot to come back, but we'll see. And then 2 days later, he was designated to return from IR. And it's like, Andy, you sneaky little, what?
Yeah, I mean, they talk about it all the time the perfect thing was Eric Berry. Like, Eric Berry was day to day for every day.
365 days.
Yeah, like that's just Andy being Andy, man. And like, I don't know how much like opposing teams truly look into that stuff. I mean, there's a good chance, but yeah, like, I mean, he's the craftiest of them all when it comes to that. It's crazy.
This almost needs to be a legacy game for Andy Reid. And I'm not saying that he needs this for his legacy, but I feel like if he goes out there and has his best coaching performance of the year, we know that McDermott is a disciple of Andy Reid. We've seen him out coach McDermott in the playoffs. And I think that has to happen again. Steve Spagnuolo the very same way. And I'm going to call a spade a spade. Patrick Mahomes is going to have to play a lot better if they want to win this football game. And I'm not saying that he's played poorly necessarily, but I'm talking like we need a 250, 300-yard performance out of you where you throw for multiple touchdowns or at least convert in the red zone. You mentioned it earlier on, Lucas. They need to turn these red zone opportunities into points. You can't kick 3 against Buffalo and expect to win. If it's 4th and goal at the 2, you're going for that.
I have a question for you guys, and I seriously thought about this this last game. And I think we saw a tiny glimpse of it when he threw the touchdown to Travis Kelce. But when is the last time we have seen Grim Reaper Patrick Mahomes? Like, that mentality of like the ball, like he's getting truly taken down, a sack, and the right-handed throw comes out for just something insane. Or I think you have to go back to that. Sorry, I'll answer your question real quick.
Yeah. I think you have to go back to that overtime drive in the last Super Bowl. I think that's the last time we saw it.
That was the last time that we were like, oh my gosh. Like, and maybe it's just the moment was
there was zero doubt they were going to go down there and score.
Yeah. That's probably it.
Because, man, we need that's – and I don't want to be critical. I mean, you kind of have to – at times you have to kind of really put everyone out there. But, like, Mahomes hasn't been the best this season, and he's got a ton going on in his life. He just had a kid, but this is a profession. Like, this is his profession. Like, this is what he gets paid to do, and we know what Mahomes is capable of. Like, it's time to be that dude. Like, it's time to put the Grim Reaper cape on and do that type of game. Like, we're gonna like Darcy said, man, we literally need to see like a 250, 300 yard. Like, I mean, I sit there and, we're able to sports bet here in Kansas. And I can't tell you the amount of times that I've just been like, I'm going to take a flyer on Mahomes to throw 2 touchdowns and have just been disappointed because it doesn't happen. And it's like, man, like that's what we need is just to go get it. Like, I'm going to just find a dot and just lay it in there.
Well, and the thing is, really quickly, Josh, I feel like the killer instinct of this offense isn't there. I need to see Mahomes the killer. I need to see Andy Reid the killer. Do not leave this game up to doubt. They need to go out there in this game and truly play their best football. I feel like we've been, for lack of a better term, edged all season. Like, when are we going to get the Chiefs' best football? We have not seen it. And I feel like you're running out of weeks, Andy. We're running out of weeks to see this offense truly play their best. I feel like they did it against Pittsburgh, and they really haven't done anything since. So it's just like, we need to see them go out there and play their best football.
What we need is like the Miami Dolphins cracked helmet Mahomes. We need the Max Crosby getting in Mahomes' face, and the memes that come out when Mahomes is walking off. I'm here. I'm like, that's the Mahomes we need.
We need some player out of Buffalo to say, like, I hate Mahomes and his family, and like I hate his kid, or something. Like, we need like that type of like, I'm going to destroy you motivation.
Quit naming your kids medals. Like,
You know, and the other thing that concerns me too is that, like, in that Texans playoff game from this past weekend, if Mahomes lets go of that ball a second sooner on the touchdown to Travis Kelce, it turns into a sack instead of a touchdown. And if that happens, who knows how that game goes? And it's like, that's how thin the margin was between, kind of not necessarily icing the game, but pulling away and maybe the Texans potentially winning. So again, the offense just has to be better for a game like this. And Patrick Mahomes needs to convert more in the red zone. And like, it hasn't all been his fault either. Like, how many times this year have they had a big play and it's called back by a Juwan Taylor penalty at right tackle?
Well, Josh, we've talked about it. We've talked about it like all season. The 2 or 3 plays the Chiefs make are the difference in the game. That was one of the 2 or 3 plays.
Yes. So there's a lot of pressure on them in this game, but they're not the only one with pressure on them going into this game. And then Lucas and Michael, I'm going to ask you about this, although Michael and I did kind of touch on this last night, but I definitely want to get on your take on this, Lucas, and then we'll talk some NFC, some NFL award stuff, and then we'll wrap it up. But there's going to be a lot of pressure on Josh Allen as well, because this is the one team that he just has not been able to beat in the postseason in his career. And it's almost become kind of a boogeyman effect, just like it was with the Chiefs versus the Bengals before they were finally able to take them down in that 2022 AFC Championship. And even that game could have gone either way. That was a very close game down to the wire. Who knows what happens if they don't get that penalty to move them 15 yards closer for a Butker field goal to win it. So my question for you, Lucas, is, man, if you're a Bills fan, how do you feel? Let's say it's the third quarter, you're down 10 to the Kansas City Chiefs, and you have the ball, you're deep in your own territory, let's say on your own 10-yard line, the Arrowhead crowd is just caving in on you. Like, what is the feeling there? Like, oh my God, I cannot beat this team. Like, it's happening again, as Michael said last night. Like, there's a lot of pressure on Josh Allen, and I feel like there might be a point in this game where if the Bills are not in a position to overtake the Chiefs and the momentum is on the Chiefs' side, that you could kind of see them start to melt down a little bit.
For sure. I'm going to look at this from a football perspective and not like really as a homer. I think this is the best we've seen Josh Allen play. I think this is the most well-rounded. Like, he's always been questioned on his ability to throw on the run. Like, I can think of, I think it was 2 years ago where he's rolling out and he's just throwing pick or like making all kinds of mistakes. Like, I think this is the most focused Josh Allen we've seen. Obviously he's got a lot going on outside in his personal life in a positive manner. One of the great things that I saw with Josh Allen was he had the 2 kids, at the children's hospital design cleats for him. And I mean, I know a lot of people do that, but I just think he's so focused and honed in on this season that I don't think, like you said, being on the 10-yard line down 10 is going to impact him. I think you're going to see that dude ball out. And I think, until we see zeros across the board, I'm going to be nervous the whole time. Like, I'm just going to be real, because I think that dude can change the game as quickly as we did against them in like 10 seconds. Like, I think he's capable of doing that with this team this year. And so, I think until we see the zeros, like, that's he's going to be that guy this year.
Well, the real question too is like, we can talk a lot about Josh Allen and being in that moment, and we're just gonna have to see if he is in that moment, what he reacts. I will say, Josh Allen might not fold under the pressure, but that Buffalo Bills defense, if they're on the field and Patrick Mahomes has the ball with like 5 minutes left and it's a tie game, they're down by 3. I think the weight of the world gets put on that defense. And this is definitely the worst defense that they've had under Josh Allen. And I think that is where they start to press. And we've seen seemingly for the past couple of seasons, teams play the Chiefs differently. There is that little sort of mind game, that mind warfare, whether it is intentional or not, that you know who you're playing. You know who's on the other sideline. And it causes teams to press or do uncharacteristic like things. And it might not be much. It might only be 1 or 2 things. But those 1 or 2 things can be the difference in winning or losing a football game. It could be the difference in a 13-second type of performance or, blowing them out in an AFC Championship game, which we did back in 2020. So it's like, I think that there will be people on that team that do press, that don't play fluid in the moment, because I know that we're talking about how, the Chiefs have all the pressure because they're trying to three-peat. This Bills team has the weight of 3 previous losses hanging over them. And if it becomes a 4th, they're the new meme. They're the Bills of the 90s and the 2020s. It gets to be that point. And I'm not saying that Josh Allen could never do it, but if it was 4 losses, it would just feel like every narrative for the rest of time would be, you're the 0-4 against Mahomes guy.
I kind of lied. I have one more question because this is something that just popped in my head. And I want to get your guys' take on this as well. And then we will move on and wrap it up. But if you guys remember, after the Bills won in the regular season, we got that clip of Travis Kelce, and he did the little clap, like the little sarcastic clap, almost like, okay, yeah, you guys got your little cool regular season Super Bowl win. Good for you. We know that we'll see you again. And, kind of insinuated that the result would be different in the postseason. See, at the time when he did that, I kind of was not a fan of it. I thought it was a little bit arrogant, and I thought like, hey, this team wanted it more. They beat you, like give them their props. And this is a matchup that I still don't feel great about. Like, obviously I'm confident in our Chiefs, and they have a very good chance to pull off a three-peat this year. No doubt about it. But do you put any stock, any weight into Travis Kelce's reaction back when the Bills beat them in the regular season? And do you think that there's something bigger in store for this time around?
I do. I think my biggest thing from this entire thing is the fact that I feel like the core majority of what the Kansas City Chiefs have been in these moments and have played in these moments as a unit. They know how to carry themselves. They know like the grind year after year after year, where like the Buffalo Bills, their team looks pretty, to me, it looks different. Like, yes, they have core guys, but their team is not the same. We're like the Kansas City Chiefs, like you can look on their roster for the last however long we've made these runs, and there's guys on there that have 2-3 Super Bowl rings, and it's because they've just decided to stick around. So I think to answer your question, yeah, it isn't a little bit of arrogance, but it's like we've been here before. We know what to expect. We know what to do. Like one loss in the regular season isn't going to change the fact that we're going to get the 1 seed and we're going to host. Like I get it, but I think you have to have that chip on your shoulder, especially when you're trying to three-peat. Like we talked earlier, you have to have somewhat fine motivation, and I think that we at that point in the season too. One of the things that was constantly talked about is like this team needs that loss to kind of get remotivated. And I think that we kind of saw that with that. It's like, yeah, we got the loss and it just so happened to be to the Buffalo Bills. And it's like, okay, now we're fired up. And I don't want to say that that's going to happen in the playoffs, but like, imagine if that does happen in the playoffs, like where we lose to the Buffalo Bills. Imagine like what could come of that too, like in the next few years, because we lose to them, like the fire it could bring, like it could rejuvenate a group that may be losing a little bit of that, but I don't anticipate that to happen. I just kind of figuratively speaking, but yeah, I think it's we've been here before. Like that one game means nothing.
When you mentioned it, Lucas, we have so much playoff experience, and really with the young guys, Trent McDuffie and George Karlaftis haven't lost a playoff game, and they've been in the league for a while now. So it's just like they have the players that have performed at the biggest stage in multiple years and done it so many times. Now, to kind of go back to the clap, I see it as like, I mean, I'm not Travis Kelce. I'm not as nearly as good of an athlete, but I feel like I've played like intramural basketball game, and you might like, get scored on you or something like that. And you kind of just go, all right. You kind of shake your hand like you tip your cap, but at the same time, it's just like, all right, I got you on the next one kind of thing. So I kind of view that clap as like all right, good game. We'll go in the next one. So I feel like it's just what you get when you see ultimate competitors. And if we're just going like, list by list, the Chiefs may have the most competitive team in like NFL history. Like these guys, Chris Jones, Travis Kelce, Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid, they are highly motivated. They're competitors at the end of the day. And I think that really instills the culture in this locker room. And so I don't have a problem with the little golf clap after the, Bills beat them in the regular season, because they celebrate like they won the freaking Super Bowl when it hasn't historically meant anything in the playoffs. Now, I do want to make the point that you can't just assume the Chiefs are going to win this game because, well, they always beat the Bills in the postseason. That's not how it works. The Bills are a fantastic football team, but the fact that this game is at home is going to benefit this Chiefs team. You're going to have the crowd noise. You're going to have that extra day of rest. You're going to have Andy Reid, who hopefully is going to have a perfect game plan offensively. And again, in a single game situation, I've made this mistake. I'm sure you guys have as well. I'm not going to bet against 15. I've done it too many times, and I love the Chiefs. I want them to win every single game, but there's been times where I'm like, ooh, this matchup's steep. Ooh, this matchup doesn't look good, and I get proven wrong every single time.
Yeah, no, it's a really good point from both of you. I almost kind of see it as like, the meme with the guy with the video game controller and he's leaning back and then he leans forward and he's locked in. That kind of feels like the Chiefs this time around, as opposed to just the casual gamer in the first matchup. But no, it's been a really good conversation, but I do want to do just a quick rapid fire, a few questions for each of you and just stuff around the NFL. And I actually have some breaking news for both of you, and we'll do this the first rapid fire question. But the Chicago Bears are hiring Ben Johnson as their head coach, the Detroit Lions offensive coordinator. So rapid fire reaction. What do you got, Michael?
The Raiders did not get their guy. That is, I was about to text the Raiders fan that I know. Man, that is insane. The Raiders just can't do anything right. No, that's a good hire for Chicago. And
yeah, because typically they make unconventional hires. I think they actually made the
consensus
sexy hire.
Consensus hire.
Yeah. What do you think, Lucas?
I don't know why I'm drawing a blank. I got it. So I'm immediately happy for Cliff Kingsbury, because I think that would have been a terrible, terrible take for him. I'm a big Kingsbury fan, and I think like a lot of people think that he's just going to jump on the quarterbacks that he's previously coached with. And so I'm glad he didn't just jump in and take that job. I think for Ben Johnson, the guy's a masterful coach. Like we've seen what he's been able to do with the Detroit Lions, and the weapons that they have. I think obviously you're going to have to completely revamp that offensive line, which has been their problem for year after year. So I don't know why that hasn't been addressed. But yeah, I think it's a home run hire on paper. Now you got to see how it works out. And I'll be honest really quick. I'm going to keep it short, but I'm not the biggest Caleb Williams fan. I was a Jaden Daniels fan.
Yeah, me too.
And I also believe that Jaden Daniels got put in a better situation, because I think we would have seen some similar, things if he would have went to Chicago, because it's a team sport, and you can only do so much as an individual. We're even seeing that with Mahomes. Like you can only do so much as an individual. You still play a team sport. So, I think he's got a lot of work to do on that offensive side. I mean, he's got weapons. He's got, a decently young quarterback that's going to, still develop. So I'm happy for him.
Yeah. Well, you know what, Lucas, I'm a big Jaden Daniels guy too. And that was actually going to be my next rapid fire question for the both of you. Do the Commanders actually have a shot to make the Super Bowl with Jaden Daniels? What are your thoughts?
Yes. 100%.
Absolutely, 100%. Like, he is playing fantastic football. I think he's better than Jalen Hurts, and I think that it could be a quarterback duel, but they also have Saquon Barkley, and Saquon Barkley is a man amongst boys.
The real
So,
MVP.
yes, the real MVP. So we'll see what ends up happening. I want the Commanders to win. I feel like they are like almost a team of destiny at this point, and they beat them earlier this year. It was in Washington, but they beat them.
I think too that's what you're seeing is like the no fear factor. Like they weren't anticipated to be in this spot. They shouldn't be in this spot for a lot of people. Will say that rookie quarterback, like Dan Quinn's new coach he's the new coach this year for them. I think that mentality of just like team camaraderie, like let's go do this thing. I think if they get ahead, I think you're going to see Jalen struggle a little bit, and like they're going to have to rely on Saquon. And well, if they shut that down, like how are they going to handle that? So yeah, I think to answer your question, yeah, I think the Commanders can do it.
Yeah, I love Jaden Daniels, man. I've been on that boat since day one. I thought he'd be a good pro, and he's even exceeded my expectations this year. So I love what I've seen out of him. And just, got to be happy for Washington fans as well after everything that franchise has been through.
Yep.
But last question for you all for the rapid fire. Who is your NFL MVP and why? And you can also talk about who you actually think should win the MVP versus like who you think is going to get the award.
Do you want me to go first?
Go ahead.
All right. I believe on just looking at it, I think Lamar should get it. I think the true MVP, and you said it, I think Saquon. I call him the Nittany Lion, mega thighs is what I call him. But yeah, I think Saquon is your true MVP, just like Austin Genty was your true Heisman. I know we don't have enough time for that, but
he was.
That's my take, but I think Lamar is the true MVP.
I think they're going to give it to Lamar when in reality it is a quarterback award seemingly. So I think Josh Allen is actually the most deserving of it. But I mean, if we're talking about who I wanted to win, I thought Saquon had the best season out of anybody, but they were never going to give that award to a running back unless he broke the record. Like if he would have broken the all-time rushing record, I feel like at that point you've got to give it to Saquon. But unfortunately, Sirianni sat him in that last game, so didn't get to see that. But I think they'll probably give it to Lamar.
Yeah, I'm starting to come to the conclusion that they are giving it to Lamar, even though I think Josh Allen should get it. Now, if we're just going like best football player this year, yeah, I also agree Saquon Barkley should get it. He should be the MVP because he's been that entire Eagles offense essentially. No discredit to the other guys on that team. But I just think, man, I just think this was Josh Allen's year to win it. And unfortunately, it looks like Lamar's going to get it. And I hate that for the narratives because that's going to give Lamar 3, which is even more than Mahomes, even though I really, really think he did not deserve last year's MVP. I thought that was one of the weakest MVPs we've ever seen given out, the one that he got last year. Because Michael and I talked about this in a recent video. But if you look at Mahomes' stats from this year, they're eerily similar to Lamar's MVP, near unanimous MVP. He was one vote away from being unanimous MVP last year. And Mahomes, and I'm not saying Mahomes should be the MVP, but like he's not even in consideration. Mm-hmm. And he had like a similar year to Lamar's MVP season last year, which is just insane to me.
Yep.
So
I could also see them potentially giving it to Josh Allen if they lose to the Chiefs this week, just as like a pity thing. Like he made it past Lamar in the playoffs, and then they lose to the Chiefs, and then they're like, "Hey, Josh Allen, here's the MVP."
It might already be decided. I think it could be because they don't use the playoffs to like vote. Unfortunately, they did that. We'd have a very different, MVP. But I think Lamar will get it because he was first team All Pro. So that's my rationale. Like if he's first team All Pro, they're probably going to give him the MVP. But I think Josh Allen is the most deserving.
I still think there's a shot you see Lamar get Offensive Player of the Year instead of MVP, and Josh Allen still ends up MVP. Because usually the Offensive Player of the Year is the runner-up. But anyway, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up there, guys. So it's been a great episode. It's been great having Lucas back, getting the Kingdom crew back together. But before we head out, guys, Michael and Lucas, why don't you let everyone know where they can find you? Lucas, we'll start with you.
Twitter is the spot. Is that even what we call it anymore? X?
I still go on Twitter.
It's Twitter.
Yeah, I can't say X. But yeah, Twitter is the beat of KC, and yeah, I'm still pretty active on there. I still tweet about what's going on live and everything. So head on over there, the beat of KC.
And guys, you know where to find me by now if you're watching this podcast. Just KC Sports Report on the YouTube. That's the one-stop shop.
There you guys have it. And that will all be down in the description as always, as well as my stuff, showmefootball.com, arrowheadaddict.com. And then if you're watching this, go ahead and subscribe. You should have already done that at the beginning, but you can also follow me on Twitter at showmefb. Again, it'll all be down in the description. It's been a blast, guys, but we are signing off. Appreciate you all tuning in. We'll see you guys in the next one. And as always, go Chiefs.